Hi, and welcome to APCSP Code.org Unit 3, Lesson 2. For today's lesson, you need your Chromebook, paper, something to write with, and something to take a picture so that you can upload what you write to Schoology Classroom. Okay, so today we're going to learn about how to make an app. We're going to learn how to create the screens, the buttons, images, text, and more than that inside of App Lab. So to start with, I want you to think about one of your favorite apps and get a picture of it in your head. And then you're going to take your paper, draw the main screen, sketch it out, paying attention to things like buttons that you have to press, how the user interacts with it, what it looks like. It can just be in pencil. You don't need to worry about the colors. And when you're finished, you're going to take a picture of it and then upload it into our Schoology classroom. The assignment that is sketch of an app. It's in media album inside of today's lesson in Schoology. So take about 3 to 5 minutes to draw the picture of your app and then upload it there. Okay, now that you have drawn your app and uploaded it, I want you to log into code.org, go to Unit 3, Lesson 2 in Code Studio, and this is what you should see, the overview of what we're going to do today. Like I said, create screens, buttons, images, text, and more inside of App Lab. And we're going to move on to Bullet 2. So this is AppLab, and you should recognize this emulator over here on the left. This is one of the apps that we looked at yesterday. So for right now, what I want you to do is take a few minutes to refresh your memory about what this app does. Be sure to look at different screens. Remember, we saw these yesterday. Play around with the buttons, just refresh your memory about what it does. And when you're done with that, go back into Schoology, go to Unit 3, Lesson 2, Discussion Number 1, and tell me something that you want to learn how to do today. Okay, so pause the video, spend a few minutes playing around with the app, go answer this question. Okay, so now we're back in App Lab, and you should have this middle section here. It could look different, the design toolbox. Maybe you need to hit on this arrow to show the toolbox, but you should have a toolbox and a workspace. Okay, and we're going to learn what these things do and how you can change an app and start to build your own app. The first thing I notice is right here in the middle, background color, F, 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 F. Maybe you know what that means, maybe not. It's okay. We're going to talk more about it later. But for right now, I'm just going to change it. What if I made it AAA, AAA? Then what happens? Notice that the background color over in here changed. Okay, I changed the letters here and the background color changed. I wonder what happens if I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like the background's going to change to this color. And maybe I decide I don't really like that color. Maybe I want to go back to a different color that I had before. I can go over here to version history, and you can see that I have changed this many times. And this is a really good thing for when you're learning how to code or when you're coding anytime, that you might make some changes and you say, you know what, I want to go back to how I was before. And in code.org's App Lab, they save all these past versions. So you can go back to one of them and say, well, wait a minute, it worked before, or I liked this setup before, and pick a different one. Or I can go back to start over and look at how it was in the very beginning. So version history, very important tool for when you are coding. Now that I went back to start over, it's back to being white over here. What I want you to do is take a few minutes and just play around with the colors here. And notice this over here also allows you to change the colors. I could just click in one of these spaces, click down here. Watch how the numbers change. You don't have to worry too much about what those numbers mean, but you can just kind of look at them and get all different colors. So take a few minutes to play around with that and then come back. Okay, once you have a color that you like, I want you to spend a few minutes looking at what other things you can change. And maybe play around with these buttons or go to other screens. I could go to a different screen here. I could also, within the screen, focus on certain things. And it's okay if you don't know what all these things mean right now. I just want you to try to play around with what can you change. And when you're done, I want you to go back to Schoology. This time go to our second discussion question and describe the things that you changed and tell me two things that you weren't able to change. Okay, and then leave your changes because when I go through your code.org lessons, I will click on each one of these bubbles up here and look at everything you've done. So I don't want you at the end to go back to version history and press start over. Just leave it however you changed it. That's fine for this. So pause the video, spend about 5 minutes or so moving things around, seeing what you can change, and then go to Schoology and post the answers, and we'll be back together in about 10 minutes. Okay, perfect. Well, now that you've made some changes, we're ready to move on to bullet 3. And for the next few bullets, you're going to be making changes on your own. You're just going to be experimenting. So I'm going to show you at first what types of things you can change. So here's a screen that's all set up in the emulator. And if I look over here, the do this, it says match the theme in the picture below. So I want to make this match this. So it said match the theme. I look over in my workspace in my toolbox, and yours could be, down lower, or it can come all the way up here so you can see more. And here it says theme. So I'm going to click on that, and I can change the theme just like that. Let me see, here's a different theme. Okay, well, they want you to match this theme here. Notice that the objects in here all stay the same. It says option 1, there's a button there, up here, type here, app title, it's all the same. You're just changing the theme. So go ahead and change the theme so that it matches this one here. Okay, when your theme matches the one in the picture, you're going to want to press run and then press finish. And continue will take you on to bullet 4. Okay, so in bullet 4, they're back to this emulator picture over here, and it says in the do this, colors for the background, text, or icon can be changed a few different ways. You can type a common color name in the field. You could type white, blue, green. You could type the RGB value, which is here, or click on the color swatch to open a color picker. We also, as we saw earlier, can just type 6 numbers or letters. We're going to find out more about the letters, but I want you to play around, see what letters work, what letters don't work. And for this, they want you to try to match all of the colors to colors that they have here. Now, before we did the background, okay, well, how are you going to change the other things that are in here? You need to go over to the screen and look at, text input, title label, button 1. Look at each of these names and try to figure out what they're referencing over here in the app, and then change the colors. They don't have to be perfect, but change them to be close to the colors that are here. So you're going to spend a few minutes doing that, clicking on this drop down so that you can pick which thing to change, then going into the color part, changing the color to try to get it to match this. Okay, now that you've got your emulator to match the picture over here, I hope that you paid attention to the names over here. When I saw title label, I was pretty sure that meant right here, app title. Okay, but when I see button 1 and button 2, I really had no way of knowing which button they were talking about. So it didn't matter too much in this one because they were both the same color, but that's something to think about. You know, if I want to distinguish between the two buttons, I should give them better names than button 1, button 2. So pay attention to how these are written, and we'll talk more about that later. For right now, once you've got it set how you want it, again, press run and then press finish and move on to bullet 5. Okay, in bullet 5, you're going to add a picture onto your screen. Now, right here, they show you when you click on this, they're going to show you how to add the picture. And you first need to have a picture saved on your computer. Then you're going to choose it, upload the file, and follow the directions. So, right now, I want you to pause the video and find a picture. They said a kitten. Find a picture that you want to put. It doesn't have to be a kitten. You can just put a picture onto the screen. So pause the video, find a picture you like, we'll meet back in about 3 minutes. So now that you have chosen a picture, you want to get it to appear over here in your emulator. So go back into the workspace. Over here on the drop down, click on image, and then the image, scroll down to where the image is, where it should be blank right now because there's no image, and I click on choose. And then I need to upload my file. So I click on that. I saved my file to my desktop right there, a picture of my dog. I click open and it will appear here and I say choose. And then it puts the picture right there into the image spot where they had already set it up for you. And put the name that I named it right here. And now I can change the width, change the height, however I want to change it. I can just move it this way, or I can change it here. I could make it wider. I can make it higher. I can change the position. What if I change this to 40? So move it around, get it where you want it to be, and then press run and finish. Okay, so now we're in bullet 6, and sometimes you might not want a picture, you just want an icon like they have here. Just really quick, grab an icon. So we're going to do that now, and you need to start by putting an image, a spot for an image onto your canvas. You can put it anywhere and then you can move it later, but now I have an image here, and then I'm going to choose what I want to go in the image. So instead of looking at my files, I'm going to switch over to icons. And I could search all of this or go up in the search bar. I'm just going to type film. There, that's what we had. The camera. There you go. And then I can move it up to the corner. You can get the one that's the film, put it there, and just put a couple of icons. If you find some other ones, it should have to do with movies, but you don't have to do exact. Find some icons, put it in there, and when you're done, again, run, and then finish. Okay, so in bullet 7, I mentioned before that your element IDs need to have meaningful names because when we clicked on things over here, it says label 1, label 2, button 1. I'm not sure what those are referring to, especially if you have like 4 buttons. You don't want to call them button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4. You need to give it a name so that when you're coding it, you know which button you're coding. You know, if you have an on-off button and maybe you have a volume button, you want those to have different names. So generally, things are named in what's called camel case. Now, what camel case means is It's all written as one word. You can't use spaces in the names. But to make sure you know where one word ends and the next word begins, you capitalize all the new words after the first one. Notice play button. First letter is not capitalized, but button is capitalized. Start button, same thing. Text area input. So the area and input are capitalized. So what you need to do is change the names so that they are more meaningful. And you might want to first figure out, all right, well, what is this talking about? So here's label 1. Notice how that made this black, it like outlined it there. That will help you see what it's talking about. Label 2, oh, that's this one. Okay, so think about what a good name would be and change the names. One thing to keep in mind, there's a difference between a label and a button. So you want to keep, like right here, play button. You want to keep the name button or label in the name of it so that you know what it is when you go to call it back. So go ahead, change those names, and then again, run and finish. Okay, now we're in bullet 8. And in bullet 8, you have a completely empty screen over here in the emulator, and you are going to reproduce this in your screen. You're going to make sure you have all of these things in the screen, okay? And the icons. It's okay if your colors aren't exactly perfect. In fact, go ahead and bring your own personality into it a little bit. And when you finish, I want you to take a screenshot of it and then submit it, go over to Schoology and put it here where it says screenshot of user interface. Okay, so that's where you're going to put your screenshot once you finish creating the design on this emulator over here. Now, just to refresh your memory, this here is how you take a screenshot. You do the Control, Shift, and then this icon up here for a screenshot on your Chromebook. Okay, and then save that somewhere and put it into Schoology. When you have finished all of that, then go back to Schoology. You're going to go back to our last discussion question and answer these questions here. What elements collect input? What elements display output? Do you think there are elements that can do both? And why is it important for element IDs to have meaningful names? So I want you to really think about these. I don't want one word answers. I want you to think about these and write me some good answers for these 4 questions. And that's it for lesson 2 of Unit 3 in Code.org's AP Computer Science Principles.